She, who was called the black woman, was sometimes the victim of the uncontrolled animal lust of some of the Union soldiers, who, for whatever reason, thought it their duty to use and abuse them at that time. Now let's go into Dr. Litwack's book, Been in the Storm So Long, The Aftermath of Slavery, to see some of these untold stories of how some Union soldiers just couldn't keep their hands off of the enslaved females. Here we go. To debauch black women, some Yankees apparently concluded, was to partake of a widely practiced and well-accepted Southern pastime, meaning the freaky white men in the South had already been exploiting enslaved women for some time. So Union soldiers were simply commencing in that which was already acceptable. The evidence was to be seen everywhere. Besides, Yankees tended to share the popular racist notion of black women as naturally promiscuous and dissolute. Natural meaning made that way from the beginning, and not due to external circumstances. This was part of the racial idea attached to those called blacks, right? That the women were highly sexual due to nature.
Singular, but true.
A Massachusetts soldier and amateur phrenologist observed,
The heads of the women indicate great animal passions.
Phrenology was part of a 19th century science which claimed that intelligence, character, and behavior could be determined by the size and shape of the human skull. Now, obviously, this was another tool that whites used to create doctrines which supported their system of racial identity and racial superiority and hierarchies. They could look at the skull and, the head of the Negro woman is rather lumpy on the left side, indicating the great uncontrolled animal passions she exhibits in regard to sexuality, right? This type of stuff. Just making things up as they go, right? And this is something that they had been doing for some time when it comes to this racial ideology, right? And they do it in such a way that fits into the ideas of the whites being at the top and those labeled as blacks at the bottom, right? That's how they set it up. And this line of thinking is what set the tone for what we see today, which is why I keep stressing it. Although some Union officers made no secret of their slave concubines, sharing their quarters with them, a black soldier noted that they usually mingled with
deluded freedwomen
only under the cover of darkness, while they openly consorted with white women during the day. Now, to be fair, some of those women likely were going with those soldiers on their own will, but others were more so pressured to do so and probably would not have slept with those men under different circumstances. But either way, the officer kept one of them with him in the darkness, while in the day he played the role with the white women. The frequency with which common soldiers mixed with black women prompted some regimental commanders to order the ejection of such women from the camp because their presence had become demoralizing, which could mean a number of things. It could mean that the soldiers became distracted from their normal duties. It could also mean that the troops picked up some bad habits. But the women were mingled with the soldiers enough for some commanders to feel the need to expel them from the camp.
I won't be unfaithful to you with a Negro wench,
A Pennsylvania soldier assured his wife,
though it is the case with many soldiers. Yes, men who have wives at home get entangled with these black things.
So there were a lot of married white men jumping around with these black things as he described them. Now, isn't that interesting? Marriages between Yankees and blacks were rare, but when they did occur, Southern whites made the most of them. Whatever the reputation of black women for promiscuity, sexual submission frequently had to be obtained by force. Observe.
While on picket guard, I witnessed misdeeds that made me ashamed of America.
A soldier wrote from South Carolina. He had recently observed a group of his comrades rape a 9-year-old black girl. This is wild right here. Actually, this is worse than wild animal behavior. Not only did some Union soldiers sexually assault any woman they found in a slave cabin, but they had no compunctions about committing the act in the presence of her family.
The father and grandfather dared offer no resistance.
2 witnesses reported from Virginia. In some such instances, the husband or children of the intended victim had to be forcibly restrained from coming to her assistance. More lower than animal behavior coming from the white Union soldiers. Now, we didn't hear about this history in school. Beyond the exploitation of sexual assault, black women could be subjected to further brutality and sadism, as was most graphically illustrated in an incident involving some Connecticut soldiers stationed in Virginia. After seizing 2
wenches,
they
turned them upon their heads and put tobacco, chips, stocks, lighted cigars, and sand into their behinds.
Which was just foolish behavior from the people participating in this. Without explanation, Some Union soldiers in Hanover County, Virginia, stopped 5 young black women and cut their arms, legs, and backs with razors.
This was new to us,
One of the victims recalled,
'cause Mr. Tinsley didn't ever beat or hurt us.
Mr. Tinsley was her former master. He did own her, but at least he never beat or hurt her like a few of the Union soldiers did who were supposed to be allies. Most Union soldiers would have found these practices reprehensible, but they occurred with sufficient frequency to induce a Northern journalist in South Carolina to write that Union troops had engaged in
some of the vilest and meanest exhibitions of human depravity
he had ever witnessed. If such incidents were rare, moreover, the racial ideology that encouraged them had widespread acceptance, even among those who deplored the excesses. The doctor says the racial ideology is what encouraged those behaviors, which is what race and the ideology behind it was intended to do, and especially towards those not categorized as white, and specifically towards those that were designated as blacks, right? The entire ideology of race is what those labeled as blacks should be looking to outgrow, because you're going to always lose in that game if you continue to work within it, right? It's just the way it's set up. And these are the beginning steps to liberating the mind and decolonizing it, right? And so from here, we shall continue to the next. I thank you for your time. My name is Brooklyn St. Michael, and I'll see you in the free world.